The Conservative Party has died because it has sold its soul to one of the worst prime ministers that we've ever had in this country, and that's Tony Blair.
Yeah. I think you make some really good points there. I would throw that back to Shaun and say, what have the Conservatives achieved that is conservative in the last 12 years?
When your last guest was speaking, I found myself nodding because I happen to agree with quite a bit of what you've said. And of course, when you talk about reform and some of the things that reform want, I would desperately want them. But let's be clear. As a politician, I sit here and say to you, how do you win elections? Ideology is your base, but action is your tactic, is how you win. And I'd say the changes that you're asking for are best done inside the Conservative Party.
It's impossible, Shaun.
I hope you're not wrong. I hope you are wrong. And I'd say you're wrong as well, because you're looking at a party that has been changed in many ways over hundreds of years. But the key thing is this. If I take the parts where I do agree with you, we need to do something about who we select, how we select, and what we speak for. You're completely right. I think we have a party now that's lost its confidence. Many of its MPs act on tweets they're getting rather than the conviction they have in their soul. So my response would be, let's help the Conservative Party be more conservative. Let's give it the confidence to be conservative publicly. And here's the real big challenge for us all Conservatives inside and outside the party. We have to battle this culture war. We have to represent, we have to win there. We have to look at who gets sacked, who gets employed. We have people now who are Conservatives who get sacked. So, of course, you get MPs who are cowards around that kind of thing.
But, Shaun, it's impossible to fix the Conservative Party because the vast majority of Tory MPs will be standing again. And it is the parliamentary party that's the problem. They're the ones who are basically socialist. And the only way to get rid of them is actually for either the Conservative Party to be wiped out and then you get Labour, which is even worse, which is one of the fears that you expressed, or, and this is where I think it's really important, those MPs who are genuinely conservative, believe in all the things that traditional Conservatives do, should leave the party now. They should stand either as independents or set up something new or join Reform, but they are going to be obliterated if they stay in the party.
That kind of pandemonium would lead to a Labour win for the next generation.
You're going to get a Labour win. You're going to get a thumping Labour majority.
I disagree with you. A Labour win is not dyed in more. Things will be changed. I do agree there's a massive job.
Trajectory...
I do agree
Shaun.
with you. I do agree with you. There's a massive job of change needed. I accept that.
It's not coming from within the Conservative Party.
Because if it's done without, what we'll do is spend years at sea and end up in Labour.
So I agree with a lot of what you're saying, both of you actually. But Shaun, it seems to me that the selection process and CCHQ is the problem. How do we get to that point if we already have a parliamentary party that is already infiltrated? How do we not need to go down Ben's route and actually have a major loss?
Let me show you the route. I would say there's enough Conservative MPs who are elected today, who are MPs today, they're in the background because of this big status agenda that's rolling over everybody, left, right, everywhere. They need to be given the platform and the confidence to step forward. I believe that will be enough of a change to do two things. A, rescue the Conservative Party back to conservatism, and B, win the general election.
OK. Alex, you've stood for the Conservative Party before, I understand. Would you do so again? Do you think you can change it from within?
No, the Conservative Party at its core has a fundamental issue. The reason why the permeation of the Conservative Party was so successful is because the Tory Party was a Jekyll and Hyde type of organization. In order to win general election, it needed to be patriotic, it needed to talk about immigration, it needed to be Thatcherite, it needed to be Churchillian. But actually, at the roots of the Conservative Party, we've got a historical pre-1940s Conservative Party, which is the appeasing part of the Conservative Party, and that's replicated in Halifax, in Heath, and in May. And the reason why this battle for the soul of the Conservative Party has been lost is because very often what happens is that the cowardly figures within the political structures congregate towards the centre, and the more Thatcherite and more Churchillian characters go to the membership and speak about whatever it is that they know the people want to see in Great Britain. So this duality is the reason why the Conservative Party cannot stand. It cannot stand because the centre is an internationalist organization that doesn't believe in borders, and we see it all the time. They put international law above domestic considerations. The moment you start to do this is the moment that you essentially say your country does not exist. And don't forget, the Conservative Party under Heath is the Conservative Party that signed the European Communities Act in 1972 that essentially put our parliament beneath the European Commission. The Conservative Party is done because philosophically it's compromised and it cannot stand in this way. The reason why we have so many problems in Britain and no delivery on Conservative policies is because at the root cause, the appeasers, or the remainers as it were, are fully in charge, and they've spent the last 80 years permeating all the institutions of the British state.
Absolutely right. And then
I'm going to phrase that to a question for you, Ben, to wrap up, because I do think Alex is right. This has become between the globalists versus the nationalists, and even the word nationalist has become derogatory at this point. Therefore, people don't want to stand up for it. But we've had an 80-strong majority in a Conservative government, now around 62 or even less than that. They've tried to push through immigration policies, which we know to be the number one or one of the top concerns of most people in this country. They haven't managed to do it. Is it because, Ben, do you think the globalists have been winning, or is it because of incompetence from within?
It's both. It's globalists. Was that question to me?
Yes, please.
Yeah. It's both. It's incompetence and globalism. The fact is you don't sort out the immigration problem by changing deportation laws. You only have to deport people when border control has ceased to function. We don't have a border control. We simply do not have any border control. Border Force acts as a glorified taxi service to welcome these people at the point of our territorial waters and bring them back to the UK. The Conservative Party is completely broken. Alex is absolutely right. This cannot be fixed from within. It is utterly divided in itself. They're going to be thumped in the next election, whatever happens. And what the Conservative MPs, who really have the national interest at heart, should be thinking is, how do we get back into Parliament so we can prevent the Labour Party from having a thumping majority and making things even worse?